This is the Simplify Next Intangible Core Index ETF, ticker symbol NXTI. In this video, we'll discuss what is NXTI, what is Intangible Capital, how the index is constructed, portfolio implementation. NXTI is an index ETF. It tracks the Next Intangible Core Index, which is an index that represents U.S. stocks with a high ratio of intangible capital. Before we dive into intangible capital, let's first define tangible capital. These are assets that are listed on a company's balance sheet and appear under the book value calculation. Examples would include property, machinery, and equipment. Intangible capital often does not appear on a company's balance sheet and is thus mostly absent from the book value calculation. Some examples are knowledge capital, which includes items such as research and development, patents, data and code, and trade secrets. Brand capital, including logos, trademarks, corporate identity, and social media presence, and human capital, which is employee talent, best practices, and corporate culture. Over time, intangible capital has been replacing tangible capital as a component of stock market value. In 1975, intangible capital represented 17% of stock market value. By 2020, intangible capital represented 90% of stock market value. And yet, intangible capital is a metric that continues to be ignored by many investors. Why is intangible capital so powerful? Here's an example. Suppose a company invests in a tangible asset like a new truck. The truck will add value and revenue, but it doesn't scale, as there is a fixed number of hours that the truck can operate. On the other hand, an investment in improved supply chain management software can theoretically increase the productivity of every truck in the fleet. The most successful companies of the past few decades have all made significant investments in intangible capital, whether it be through building powerful brands, hiring and retaining the best talent, driving innovation through research, or some combination of these efforts. How can intangible capital be identified? Unlike tangible capital, which is found on the balance sheet, intangible capital is mostly found in the income statement, predominantly within the selling, general and administrative, or SG&A expenses. Examples might include the money spent on brand advertising, on hiring a data scientist to maximize value from the customer database, or on conducting basic research that is not immediately applicable to a current product. When a tangible asset is purchased, it gets added to a company's book assets found on the balance sheet and depreciated over time. While intangible assets don't get added to a company's official balance sheet, they can be added to book assets and amortized over time for analysis purposes. This is what the Next Intangible Core Index does to calculate the intangibles adjusted capital. How can investors take advantage of the power of intangible capital? This is why the Next Intangible Core Index was created. It selects stocks with high intangible assets relative to book assets. These firms have numerous competitive advantages, including greater returns to scale, higher profitability, higher cash flows, and a greater degree of innovation. Let's review the Next Intangible Core Index construction. The investable universe begins with the top 2,000 U.S. stocks based on market capitalization. The stocks are ranked based on a ratio of intangible capital to book assets. It's important to note that the rankings are made for stocks within their specific industry group. The top 200 stocks are chosen to fill out the index. Stock weightings are determined by relative market capitalization. The maximum weight per stock is 5%. The minimum number of stocks per sector is 5. The index is reconstituted and rebalanced quarterly. Lastly, the index is long only with no leverage. As for portfolio implementation, NXTI can be used to replace any core U.S. equity exposure, whether active or passive. Because of its diversification and high correlations with core U.S. equities, it is suitable as the only holding in a core U.S. equity allocation or as a sleeve within a multi-fund U.S. equity allocation. Now for some Q&A. Does the next Intangible Core Index favor high intangible capital industries over high tangible capital industries? For example, biotechnology over construction equipment? No. The stocks in the universe are ranked versus other stocks within the same industry. A construction equipment company is just as likely to be a part of the index as a biotechnology company. It's mentioned that the index uses the income statement to determine intangible assets. What about intangible assets found on the balance sheet, such as goodwill or identifiable intangible assets like patents and trademarks? Goodwill is not a good indicator of intangible assets and mostly reflects accounting true-ups that are calculated after a merger. Likewise, identifiable intangible assets on balance sheets mostly identify companies making acquisitions, rather than those making a significant internal investment in intangible assets. The most successful growth companies of the past decade all have high degrees of intangible capital. For example, Microsoft, Meta, Google, etc. Is the intangible capital metric just a backdoor way of investing in growth stocks? No. The academic research supporting intangible capital goes back well more than a decade. Furthermore, NXTI has about the same correlation with value stocks as it does with growth stocks. Thank you for viewing this presentation. For more information about NXTI or any other Simplify ETF, please go to simplify.us/ETFs. We'd like to hear from you. So if you click the Contact Us link at the top of the page, you can get in touch and we will respond promptly.